Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're going deep into the world of holistic health with naturopathic Dr. Chase Weber and his wellness formula.
Okay.
We've got excerpts from 4 of his blog posts. I was surprised to find how relevant ancient wisdom still is to modern health. I bet you'll be surprised too.
Absolutely, yeah. Dr. Weber's work really highlights how ancient practices like traditional Chinese medicine or Ayurveda were essentially personalized wellness plans centuries ahead of their time. You're familiar with this saying, let food be thy medicine.
Mhm.
These traditions were putting that into practice long before modern medicine started catching on.
That's a really good point. I remember reading about Ayurveda and thinking how personalized it was, tailoring diets and lifestyle recommendations to each individual's unique constitution. So how does Dr. Weber connect this ancient wisdom to his modern approach?
He starts by reminding us that these ancient traditions saw individuals as part of nature, not separate from it. They recognized an innate healing power within us, a concept he calls vive medicatrix naturae.
Wait, vis medicatrix naturae? That sounds pretty complex. Break that down for me and for our listeners.
Okay, think of it like this. You know how your body automatically starts healing a cut?
Yeah.
That's vis medicatrix naturae in action. It's the body's inherent ability to heal and maintain balance. Dr. Weber argues that this natural healing power is often overlooked in modern medicine, which tends to focus more on fighting disease than supporting the body's own defenses.
Okay, I'm starting to see the connection. So while modern medicine has made amazing strides, are you saying that maybe we've lost sight of some of these fundamental principles?
Exactly, and Dr. Weber traces this shift in perspective back to the rise of Western medicine during the Industrial Revolution. There was almost a change from seeing ourselves as a part of nature to wanting to be in control of it, wouldn't you say?
That's a fascinating way to put it, and I guess it makes sense. As science and technology advanced, we became more focused on conquering disease, leading to the development of powerful drugs and interventions.
Right. And while these advancements have undeniably saved countless lives, they also led to a more reactive approach to health, often neglecting the individual's role in their own well-being.
So where does naturopathic medicine fit into all of this? Is it more aligned with those ancient traditions?
Absolutely. Naturopathic medicine emphasizes working with the body's natural healing abilities, rather than just suppressing symptoms. Dr. Weber is a strong advocate for this approach. He believes it offers a more sustainable path to long-term health and wellness.
Okay, that makes sense. But I'm sure many listeners are thinking, this all sounds great in theory, but what about the realities of modern life? We're bombarded with stress, we eat processed foods, we sit at desks all day. How can we possibly expect our bodies to heal amidst all of that chaos?
That's a valid concern, and it's something Dr. Weber addresses head-on. He doesn't shy away from discussing the very real challenges of the modern lifestyle and the toll it takes on our health. He actually breaks it down into 3 main areas: physical, nutritional, and mental-emotional.
Well, let's dive into those areas because I think that's where things get really relevant for our listeners. Starting with the physical. What are some of the key stressors Dr. Weber highlights?
He points to the sedentary nature of many modern jobs.
Right.
We spend hours sitting at desks, staring at screens, barely moving our bodies. Our ancestors were constantly active, and our bodies simply aren't designed for this level of inactivity. This lack of movement contributes to a whole host of problems, from obesity and cardiovascular disease to musculoskeletal issues and even mental health challenges.
I can definitely relate to that. I know when I sit for too long, I start to feel stiff and sluggish, and my mind doesn't work as well either. It's like my whole system starts to slow down.
Exactly. And it's not just about the lack of movement. It's also about the type of movement we're not doing. Our bodies need a variety of movements: walking, running, lifting, stretching, to function optimally.
That actually reminds me of something I read about traditional Chinese medicine. They emphasized the importance of qi, which is this vital energy that flows through the body.
Oh.
And one of the key ways to cultivate qi is through movement practices like Tai Chi and Qigong.
That's a great connection. It all circles back to the idea that our bodies are designed to move. And when we don't move enough, or when we move in ways that are unnatural or repetitive, it creates stress and disrupts our internal balance.
This has been really insightful. We've covered a lot of ground already, from ancient wisdom to the challenges of the modern lifestyle. But before we go any further, I think it's important to remember that while we're acknowledging the very real stressors we face, the point isn't to dwell on the negative. Dr. Weber's work is ultimately a message of empowerment. It's about recognizing the power we have to influence our own well-being, even within the constraints of modern life.
Absolutely, and that's where his wellness formula comes in. It's a framework for understanding those stressors and taking proactive steps to mitigate their impact. And it's not just about avoiding the bad stuff, it's also about embracing the good stuff, those things that nourish and support our body's natural healing abilities.
Okay, I am definitely intrigued. So before we wrap up part one of this deep dive, can you give us a little preview of what this wellness formula entails? I know you mentioned it briefly earlier, but I'm eager to hear more. What are the key elements, and how can our listeners start thinking about applying it to their own lives?
Well, to really understand the wellness formula, we need to delve deeper into those three areas Dr. Weber outlines: physical, nutritional, and mental emotional. He provides a comprehensive list of stressors and health promoters for each area, and that's where the real magic happens.
It sounds like we have a lot to unpack. Luckily, we have 2 more parts to this deep dive, so for our listeners, stay tuned. We'll be right back after a short break to explore the wellness formula in detail and see how you can start applying it to your own life.
And we've just started uncovering how this formula can help you navigate the complexities of modern life and tap into your body's innate healing power.
Right before the break, you mentioned that to really understand the wellness formula, we need to explore these 3 key areas: physical, nutritional, and mental emotional. So let's dive into the first one, physical. What are some of the physical stressors Dr. Weber highlights, and how do they impact our overall well-being?
Dr. Weber paints a vivid picture of how modern living often clashes with our physical needs. We've already talked about the lack of movement, but he also points to things like chronic sleep deprivation.
Oh, tell me about it. I'm sure many of our listeners can relate to burning the candle at both ends. But how does something like lack of sleep actually impact our health?
It's not just about feeling tired. Chronic sleep deprivation disrupts our hormonal balance, weakens our immune system, and impairs cognitive function. It's like running your car on fumes. Eventually, something's got to give.
That's a great analogy. It's like we're constantly pushing our bodies to the limit without giving them the rest and rejuvenation they need. I know I've definitely felt the effects of sleep deprivation firsthand. Brain fog, irritability, even weakened immunity.
Exactly. And then there are the environmental stressors. Dr. Weber talks about exposure to toxins and pollutants in our air, water, and food. These can accumulate in our bodies over time and contribute to a whole range of health problems.
That's a sobering thought. It's like we're fighting a constant battle against these invisible stressors that are impacting our health on a cellular level. So what can we do about it?
Well, that's where the empowering part of the wellness formula comes in. Dr. Weber provides a list of health promoters, which are essentially actions we can take to counteract these physical stressors and support our body's natural healing abilities.
Okay, give us some examples. What are some of these health promoters that can help us on a physical level?
First and foremost, prioritizing sleep. It's not just about the number of hours, but also the quality of our sleep. Dr. Weber recommends creating a relaxing bedtime routine, avoiding screens before bed, and making sure your bedroom is dark, quiet, and cool.
Those are all great tips. I know I've experimented with things like blackout curtains and white noise machines to improve my sleep environment, and it's made a huge difference.
It really can. And then there's exercise. We've already discussed its importance, but Dr. Weber emphasizes finding activities you genuinely enjoy. It shouldn't feel like a chore. It could be dancing, hiking, swimming, playing a sport, whatever gets you moving and brings you joy.
I love that. It's about making movement a part of your life, not just another item on your to-do list. And I think that ties into the mental and emotional aspects of well-being as well, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And speaking of mental and emotional well-being, let's move on to that area because it's just as important as the physical.
Okay, let's do it. What are some of the mental and emotional stressors that Dr. Weber highlights? I'm guessing this is where things like work, stress, and information overload come into play.
You got it. Dr. Weber talks about the constant barrage of information we're exposed to, the pressure to be on all the time, and the blurring of boundaries between work and personal life.
It's like our minds never get a break, and I think that constant stimulation can be incredibly draining.
Exactly, and it can lead to anxiety, overwhelm, and even burnout. Dr. Weber also talks about the impact of negative self-talk and limiting beliefs.
Oh, those are insidious. It's so easy to get caught in those negative thought patterns without even realizing it.
It is, and those negative thoughts can become self-fulfilling prophecies, impacting our mood, our behavior, and even our physical health.
So in the face of all this mental and emotional stress, what are some of the health promoters that can help us cultivate resilience and inner peace?
Dr. Weber is a big advocate for mindfulness practices like meditation and deep breathing. He emphasizes the importance of carving out time for quiet reflection, even if it's just for a few minutes each day.
I've heard that mindfulness practices can actually rewire our brains, helping us become more resilient to stress. Is that something you've explored in your own life?
Absolutely. I find that even a few minutes of mindful breathing can help me shift out of a stressed out state and regain a sense of calm and clarity.
I'm definitely going to try incorporating more of that into my routine. It's like hitting the reset button for your mind.
Exactly. And it's not just about formal practices like meditation. It's about bringing a sense of mindfulness to everyday activities. Whether you're washing the dishes, walking the dog, or simply enjoying a cup of tea, you can practice paying attention to the present moment without judgment.
I love that. It's about finding those pockets of peace throughout the day, those moments where you can just be present and connect with yourself.
Exactly. And speaking of connection, Dr. Weber also emphasizes the importance of nurturing healthy relationships, spending time with loved ones, cultivating a sense of community, and engaging in activities that bring you joy. These are all powerful health promoters for our mental and emotional well-being.
That makes so much sense. We're social creatures, and feeling connected to others is essential for our overall health and happiness.
It really is, and it's something that's often overlooked in our individualistic culture. But Dr. Weber reminds us that we're not meant to go it alone. We thrive when we feel supported, loved, and connected to something larger than ourselves.
This has been a fantastic discussion so far. We've explored the physical and mental emotional dimensions of the wellness formula, and I'm already feeling inspired to implement some of these health promoters into my own life.
I'm glad to hear that, but we're not done yet. We still have one more crucial area to explore: nutritional.
Right, the food we eat plays a huge role in our overall health and well-being. So before we wrap up part 2 of this deep dive, let's give our listeners a little preview of what Dr. Weber has to say about nutrition. What are some of the nutritional stressors and health promoters we should be aware of?
Well, Dr. Weber talks about the prevalence of processed foods, refined sugars, and unhealthy fats in the modern diet. He also discusses the impact of industrial farming practices and the depletion of nutrients in our soil.
Oh, that's a topic I'm really interested in. I've been reading a lot about regenerative agriculture and how it can help restore the health of our soil and the quality of our food.
That's fantastic, and Dr. Weber touches on that as well. He advocates for choosing whole, unprocessed foods whenever possible, prioritizing organic and locally sourced options, and paying attention to the seasonality of our food.
So it's about going back to basics, focusing on real food that nourishes our bodies rather than filling them with empty calories and artificial ingredients.
Exactly. And it's not just about what we eat, but also how we eat. Dr. Weber emphasizes the importance of mindful eating, paying attention to our hunger cues, and savoring each bite.
I love that. It's about bringing a sense of awareness and intention to the act of nourishing ourselves rather than just mindlessly scarfing down food.
That's the key. And we'll delve deeper into all of these nutritional aspects in part 3 of this deep dive.
Okay, I am officially hooked. For our listeners, stay tuned for part 3, where we'll explore the nutritional dimension of the wellness formula in detail and discover how you can apply these principles to optimize your diet and nourish your body from the inside out. Welcome back to the deep dive. We're wrapping up our exploration of naturopathic Dr. Chase Weber's wellness formula, and I have to say this has been one of the most insightful deep dives yet.
I agree, yeah. Dr. Weber's approach to health is both comprehensive and empowering, and I think it offers a lot of valuable takeaways for our listeners.
Absolutely. We've already covered the physical and mental and emotional dimensions of the formula, and now we're diving into the final piece of the puzzle, nutrition.
Right, and as we hinted at in the last segment, this is where Dr. Weber really challenges conventional wisdom and encourages us to rethink our relationship with food.
Okay, I'm all ears. What are some of the key points he makes about nutrition in the modern world?
He starts by highlighting the pervasiveness of processed foods, refined sugars, and unhealthy fats in the standard American diet. He argues that these foods are essentially devoid of nutrients and actually create stress on our bodies.
I've heard that processed foods can disrupt our gut microbiome, which plays a huge role in our overall health.
Exactly. And Dr. Weber emphasizes that connection as well. He talks about the importance of nourishing our gut with fiber-rich whole foods to support a healthy microbiome.
It's amazing to think that the trillions of bacteria living in our gut have such a profound impact on our physical and mental well-being.
It really is. And Dr. Weber also discusses the impact of industrial farming practices on the nutritional quality of our food. He argues that the overuse of pesticides and herbicides depletes the soil of essential nutrients, which in turn reduces the nutrient content of the food we eat.
I recently started paying more attention to where my food comes from, and I've been surprised to learn how much the quality of our soil affects the nutritional value of our food.
It's a crucial factor that's often overlooked. Dr. Weber advocates for choosing organic and locally sourced foods whenever possible. He believes that supporting local farmers who are committed to sustainable practices is one of the best ways to ensure we're getting the most nutrient-dense food.
That makes a lot of sense. It's about voting with our dollars and supporting a food system that prioritizes both human and environmental health.
Exactly. And beyond the source of our food, Dr. Weber also stresses the importance of mindful eating. He encourages us to slow down, savor each bite, and pay attention to our body's hunger and fullness cues.
I'm a huge advocate for mindful eating. It's so easy to mindlessly scarf down food while we're working or scrolling through our phones, but when we take the time to really savor our food, it enhances the entire experience and helps us connect more deeply with our bodies.
Absolutely. It's about treating meal times as a ritual, a time to nourish ourselves both physically and mentally.
It's interesting to think about how all of these principles, from mindful eating to supporting local farmers, tie back to the ancient wisdom we discussed earlier. It's like we're coming full circle, rediscovering the importance of connecting with nature, both within ourselves and in the world around us.
I couldn't agree more. Dr. Weber's wellness formula is essentially a modern interpretation of these timeless principles, providing a practical framework for applying them to our lives today.
This has been such an eye-opening deep dive. We've covered so much ground, from ancient wisdom to the challenges of modern living, and we've explored the physical, mental, and emotional and nutritional dimensions of the wellness formula. So as we wrap up this episode, what's the key takeaway you want our listeners to walk away with?
I think the most important message is this. You have more power than you realize to shape your own health destiny. By understanding the interplay of your constitution, stressors, and health promoters, you can make informed choices that support your body's natural healing abilities and create a life of vibrant well-being.
That's a powerful message. It's not about blaming ourselves for our health challenges, but rather about recognizing the power we have to make positive changes.
Exactly. And even small changes can have a ripple effect. It might be as simple as swapping out that afternoon soda for a glass of water, adding a 15-minute walk to your day, or taking 5 minutes to practice deep breathing before bed. Every step you take towards nourishing your body, mind, and spirit is a step in the right direction.
So true. And for our listeners who are feeling inspired to delve deeper into Dr. Weber's work, we've included links to the blog posts we discussed in the show notes.
And if you're enjoying these deep dives, be sure to subscribe to The Deep Dive and leave us a review. It helps more people discover the show and join us on this journey of exploration and discovery.
Thanks for joining us. Until next time, stay curious, keep learning, and remember, you got this whole healing thing.